Power.
Nebraska Football Hall of Famer Jay Foreman.
Rifles a pass. It was tipped. It's picked off by Foreman. He's at the 15, 10, 5. He'll score!
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We are live on Old School, and no, this is not DP or Jay Foreman, but it is some other guys from around the ticket, so we'll go through here. I'm Jake Bakoven, and we've got the Husker Hall of Famer Strick along with Nate Brennan as well. We've got a high school football coming up here in about a half an hour, so it'll be a short version of Old School today, but we can get right to the business, and even though it's a bye week, talk some Husker football because you know, it's been a while since I've been on air with you guys, and a lot has changed since
oh my God,
we've been on air together.
It's good to be back.
It is. It is good.
The boys
to be
are
back.
Hey, the boys are back in town.
They can kind of reset, get the bye week. A lot of what are you guys doing for the bye week? By the way, you guys watching some college football or taking a chance to breathe, get away from it? What's your approach to bye week?
I think I need a breather after last night. So it's honestly everything's falling apart for me. So I might not watch much college football.
I think it was a bad. The Colts suck. It was a bad night for him yesterday.
Yeah.
You know. So this is what he did, Bach. He tried to play the Virginia. You know the
country road.
He tried to play the country roads, and he tried to add the Virginia into it as if Virginia is going to take control, right?
Yeah.
But West Virginia basically kept the song. They deserve it's only their song now. You can't have no claim to it.
They have country roads on the back of their helmets, don't they? I mean, they're very serious about that.
No, it's the official state song of West Virginia.
But it is officially not about West Virginia.
No, it's not about West Virginia. That's why I think it's so funny.
Yeah,
because it's like this song is literally about the state of Virginia.
You should have heard it. He added Virginia in there.
That
was the only thing that was there.
I saw it on Twitter actually.
It's unbelievable.
That's pretty good. But yeah, it's been a tough week for a few different teams. I'm planning on going to do some scouting. I think Trev Alberts at one point might ask me my opinion. So no, he's not going to do that. But I still am interested. So Lawrence, Kansas, not too far away. I'm going to see what Lance Leipold's all about. Yeah. Oh, wow. I think he's high on the list that everybody expects. I know you guys throw out some different names. Every week it seems to be a different name. This week the hot name was kind of Dave Aranda.
I saw that. I was talking to Strick about that.
Yeah.
I like that. I think if you would poll Nebraska fans, I think if you polled Nebraska fans out of Leipold, Campbell, and Aranda, I think you'll find that the percentages are majority Aranda. I think somebody did a poll out there, and I think it came out 66% for Aranda.
Wow.
I think Campbell was like 12 or 13%. There was a couple others that I think the most that somebody got to was like 16%. So I think a lot of people are really thinking Aranda would be the look. And I think it's because of the short-term turnaround. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like the fact that he came in there to a 2-7 program and was able to, in 1 year, revamp the whole now. So that's basically saying I'm taking what you already have there, basically inspiring, motivating, speaking life, coaching, and turning it around and maybe getting a few pieces out of the transfer portal or so forth. A few pieces, not a whole bunch, because they didn't do what Nebraska did, get 18 or so. So I think that's kind of the way that a lot of people are looking at it. And I think it's appealing. It's appealing when you think about it. But who from the Big 12 would not want to enter into the Super Conference era? Right?
Well, I think, the money will definitely be on Nebraska's side. It's so strange to think about it from the Aranda angle because back in the 90s, like, late 90s, early 2000s, really before Robert Griffin got there and sparked, Waco a little bit in the football side, it was almost to the point of like, should we keep Baylor in the conference? I mean, they were just the worst. Mm-hmm. And to think at that time where Nebraska was probably considered a top 10 job and Baylor was far down. Now, I think the only thing that makes it intriguing for Dave Aranda would be the Big Ten money, the security there. It's not necessarily Nebraska's brand over Baylor's brand because, of course, Baylor as well, can recruit in Texas, which makes it a lot easier for that recruiting place. And so, the other thing is he's got it going. He doesn't have to pump life into the program. He's got Baylor rolling. So it's interesting to see what Nebraska can do. I hope that they can get somebody that maybe is above what we are expecting, right? Because I think all these coaches, to me, they all sound like they've got life, and I have seen what they've done, and they're all worth a swing. I won't be upset about any of those hires. I just want Nebraska to kind of blow us out of the water. If it's not Urban Meyer, that's fine. But nobody saw Lincoln Riley going to USC. Nobody saw Kelly going to LSU. Something like that, where it's just like, hey, whoa. I wouldn't expect to see that.
Here's what I find is interesting, and I kind of mentioned it yesterday. When you talk about Aranda, there's multiple pieces that kind of fit a nice puzzle. You know what I mean? It's not like that puzzle where, you see all the pieces and then it gets down to the end and you're just trying to stick it in the spot that really it doesn't fit, but it looks like it's close, but maybe, you know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But these pieces just seem to fit, quite nicely. And here's what it looks like for me. He spent time in the SEC as a DC.
Oh, yeah.
He spent time in Big Ten. So he knows the two power conferences, what it's about.
Right.
He's had that experience. But then there's a relationship that he also has with Mickey. So you could see that if he came in, you wouldn't lose the value of what Mickey is. Now we're still saying we're here not talking about Mickey just being kicked out on the curb, and we still want to offer him a shot. And I'm going to throw a question to you with regards to our debate yesterday, but but at the end of the day, he also has connection to Bush. So there's some ties there at the top that kind of fit a nice piece that he wouldn't have to come in and just do a total overhaul or just totally, pillage Baylor if it came down to it, in some aspects. So I'm not saying it's him. I'm not speculating. I'm not throwing a woo out there. I'm just basically saying there's some nice pieces that kind of fit in that puzzle that makes it interesting.
Yeah, no, I no doubt I could see that. And it certainly still is, I think, depending on which way you look at it, there's still 8 games left. It's Mickey's job to win or Mickey's job to lose. Now I would look at it as Mickey's job to win because I think he's got kind of an uphill battle there, especially
I think the schedule fits,
with what he's been given.
Fits good for him.
I don't know. Again, if they're going to make a bowl game, you're going to have to beat teams that won 9 games last year. In one way, that's obviously difficult. In another way, it would at least provide a big time win that Nebraska hasn't seen in the Scott Frost era, and even going back to Mike Riley. So, I mean, if you can just get one, and he's got several opportunities, I don't know if, beating Purdue or Minnesota is going to quite do it, but I at least want that moment for Mickey Joseph. He doesn't get the head coaching job, certainly want him retained. Maybe he does good enough that other schools want him. Nebraska doesn't quite want him. He might get a head coaching opportunity elsewhere. But I'd like to see Nebraska obviously keep him. He's one of the best positional coaches in the nation.
Yeah.
We'll see how it kind of turns out with the head coach, but he's given a mess. So he doesn't really get the best look of what we would see as a guy that can build the program.
Honda Lincoln Hotline is open 402-464-5685, as well as the Sutter Heyman text line. We always appreciate your text there. We're 30 people away now from hitting 2,000. Hit the like, hit the subscribe on your YouTube channel. We thank you also for your comments there as well. So, Bach, one other thing I threw out yesterday when we were having conversations, right when Jay came in, and obviously just want to kind of hear your perspective because, it wasn't really a debate. It kind of, the way it kind of came in is that Nate and I were having a discussion. We were talking about, what it would look like if Frost had gotten to a bowl game, was able to secure, the record started a little bit different than what it was. This is all speculation, but for me, I wanted to get your take on it because I think you and I, being former partners, we kind of have a semblance of thought on this one, and I just want to keep pounding because he thinks he's the smartest guy on 93.7, based on what they tell us. So every way I can, I just want to stick it to the poke him. I just want to poke him, right? So what we said was, and how we came to this is, if I said I thought it was nuance, that it depended not on the 6-6 record per se, which my partner thought if Frost got 6-6, he's good.
He's good.
I said, you looked at that, Georgia Southern, Northwestern, it was like that, Indiana, Illinois. That's 5 when you're just looking at the schedule. You're thinking that if you can just secure those, you're one way away. And I said, I didn't think that was good for me. I said, I need to see a little bit. I couldn't see him winning that and then maybe winning Purdue, who's down right now. And then he still retains, even though you go to a bowl game. I said, no, I don't think that's a good look. I said, it's a little bit more nuanced for me. I think it depends on who it is and how they took the losses. You lose here to Northwestern. You even beat Oklahoma, but then you get the breaks beat off of you by Purdue, and then you lose to Iowa and Wisconsin, but then you beat Rutgers. And, I'm like, that ain't a look.
Yeah.
So what's your thought? Is it, you feel that 6-6, the record 6-6 was the look no matter what? Or do you feel it was a nuanced thing that kind of depended on how, when, and who?
I think more the latter. I think it would have been depending on what what the look ultimately was. And I kind of said that all offseason. I predicted 6-6 in part because I thought that'd be the most interesting outcome, because it is finally, it's your best season. Do you give up on a guy when he's having his best season?
Bingo.
Or, at the same time, is it, is this the stride are you really taking a stride if you're beating a bunch of teams that aren't going bowling? I mean, if you win 6, but you didn't beat anybody that has more than 500 record, are you really taking a step forward? Is it a big of enough step forward in year 5? I will tell you this. I would let him go, and I would have let him go at 3-9. I'm kind of mad that we have to go through this whole season. This is kind of ridiculous to me that he's 15-29, and then you wait till he's 16-31 to fire him. This season should have been better organized.
That wasn't anticipated. Let's at
it's
least
the
be
same
fair.
winning percentage
Let's be fair.
what he had coming in.
Let's be fair to Trev
1
in
and
this
2.
situation. I think everyone expected, at worst case scenario, Nebraska's 2-1. You can't expect to lose to Georgia Southern, and you certainly can't expect to lose against North Dakota, which Nebraska almost found a way to do that, for crying out loud.
But they hadn't won 3 in a row under Frost.
Right, and I understand,
so
but
I'm
even saying Northwestern. You can even throw out Northwestern. I think, okay, William throw in Oklahoma. Worst case scenario, you're 2-2. No one anticipated Georgia Southern loss. You could not have possibly. And then once they lost to Georgia Southern, it's done. It's over.
Yeah, but
which I'm okay with.
I think if you're 3-9, that's about the time to go. I don't think that if you're 15-29 overall, we're all kind of sitting through this year. This is going to be 6 straight years without a bowl game. I don't know how much more you can just let torture the fan base like this. If it's not the guy, and maybe they didn't. Maybe they truly believed Scott Frost was going to turn the tail. I just thought this whole time, this is a long shot. And, maybe it has to do with donors or different people making moves back there, and they weren't ready to give up on Frost or whatever. But ultimately my answer is they have more faith in Frost than I did. So it's hard for me to answer that. To me, 6-6 wouldn't work. To them, the way that I read them, I think they'd probably retain him at 6-6 and keep going with it, because that's how much they loved him. And who knows if the behind the scenes stuff is going on. I mean, that should have added to it as well. But I'm a little bit frustrated that we're even sitting in this scenario, because I think we should be in year 1 of a new, already on the way to new build.
Well, you also got to think too. I think there's 2 counterpoints to that. Is one, the 3-9, if it would have looked like a normal 3-9 football team where, okay, maybe you compete in a couple games and then get absolutely shelled by Oklahoma, Ohio State, Michigan, I think they would have had a different conversation. I think you probably ultimately would have gotten let go. You competed in those games. You showed that you were a quote-unquote good football team, however you want to decipher that. Another part of it, too, if you look at last year's coaching carousel, Nebraska would have been, 4th, 5th on that list? Like, think of all the teams in the country that got a new coach. Like, you're not beating out LSU. You're not beating out USC. Who are the other schools that ended up getting new coach? You're not beating out Notre Dame. They might have retained a coach, but you're not beating out. Like,
those are all top tier teams. Those are tier 1 teams.
Nebraska is
tier 2, Oklahoma.
So you're 5th, 6th on that list.
Yeah.
Like, this year.
So who do you end up with?
Anticipating that maybe the only move is, I don't know, at this point, Texas A&M, if it all falls apart.
But the guys, think about
you're top on the list.
Who was available last year? Matt Campbell, Lance Leipold, Dave Aranda. These are the same guys, and they're basically their resumes are about the same. They've got a little bit different starting up. I just don't know if that would have massively affected it, because Nebraska's not on that top tier.
But then
list
you had to consider initially. You had to consider the money. I think I don't think the money, because obviously Trev pulled the trigger at what it was going to be anyway, right?
Yeah.
I don't think the money was necessarily the end all be all, but I thought it was a consideration, right? I think if I'm looking at it from a business standpoint, I'm saying you're 3-9. And again, this is all speculation. I can't say this is what Trev thinks,
Right.
but I'm saying you're 3-9. You were on the verge. You played pretty tough against some good teams. I'm saying, do I just want to just waste the 15 million even after that, where I know I can get a bonus and drop that down to 7.5 if he just gets through and the schedule is very favorable next year? If you and I just think that Georgia Southern just painted,
That was it.
I think that just painted the, that put him in a coffin. I just think that just put him in a coffin, shut the door, and it's time to bury. You know what I mean? At that point. So I think that was kind of maybe a way of looking at it potentially. I'm not saying that is the answer, but you're thinking about that too, possibly as well as a chancellor, he's also part of the chancellor's group, and you're looking at the money situation as well. You're going to have to pay. So here's the nuance of that. You're already in the fight. You're in the fight against Oklahoma, LSU, Notre Dame, USC,
Thunder,
all of these.
Soft Collins brings up too. Don't forget Miami and Oregon.
You're in the mix of all those fight. So guess what that means? That means there is a tug and pull on the money. That means somebody's going to have to pay a little bit of extra money to get who they really want, and it's going to be one of those competition situations, right? So I think step out of the competition.
And this year to look different because
you still got to pay a buyout. So that is a
2022
problem.
burn. Let Scott Frost fire himself is what I heard.
But what we'll say though is I don't think the coaching carousel will be as crazy as last year. At least I hope not, or else Nebraska's going to be in a
But you may
very
still have to
interesting
pay
predicament.
somebody else's buyout, so that's still you're gonna have to pay the
Yeah,
bag. So
say something.
it's we'll
I don't
see.
know.
But that's what I'm kind of frustrated about. Is I thought that money mattered in all this. I thought the buyout was part of it. That's why I was
Right.
kind of okay with retaining Coach Frost.
But it came that
and
it
then
wasn't.
when
That's
it
probably
doesn't
the
matter,
case.
then it's like, what do we? So we're just gonna believe in the 15 and 29 guy? That's all this was.
Yeah.
All right, you guys know better than I do.
And this is the position that we're at. Good conversation. We'll bring this crew back together at some point soon. But we got to head out to Seacrest Field High School football coming up next, right here, 93.7 The Ticket.
Hey!
There's nothing quite like the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese beef. The Mercado